Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we are going to do another Q&A. This one is not really themed, except for, I guess at the end, they put a bunch of questions that people asked about clusters, and we'll go through those. These are really just your questions throughout the last couple of weeks, I guess. And apparently the number one question that came in was... where did I find RC Cola? I had it in the background of a recent video over on the other channel, and I guess a whole bunch of people got nostalgic. I live in the deep south. I find RC at the gas station. I'll try to find a link and put one down below to where y'all can order it if you're just craving it now. Okay. My friend went to ROTC training at Knox, and he said they fed him expired MREs. Is this a sign that our military has a rations problem? Expired MREs, but did he die? Okay, no. Your friend, hopefully you will tell him, and he's about to learn something that a whole bunch of people don't know. Those dates on the side of MRE boxes, those are not expiration dates. They're inspection dates. If I remember correctly, it is 3 years from the date of manufacture. And the inspection date is the shortest period, like the earliest they would go bad if they were stored at 85 degrees, 80 degrees, something like that. The cooler they're stored, the longer they last. And if they're stored properly, like they would be at, like, I don't know, a military-based warehouse, they'll last years longer than that, like years and years and years longer than that. A lot of them, I don't know if they still put them on there, but a lot of them have TTIs on them, time temperature indicator, something like that. It's a little circle, and it looks like a bullseye. If the center is lighter than the ring, they're still good. If it's the same color, they're right at the end of their life. If the center is darker, don't eat them. As far as them feeding him expired MREs, if one's really expired, you'll know when you open it. So my guess is they were past their inspection date, their first inspection date. That doesn't mean that they're bad. When is Deep Goat coming back? In the last video, you said something about other channels. You need a whole Deep Goat channel. I don't know. I'll see if I can round him up sometime soon. But yeah, I don't know that there's enough content for an entire Deep Goat channel. Although it would be an interesting premise. Why did you like the comment about Putin just declaring victory? I have no idea what that means. This is probably something about him just declaring victory and withdrawing. That's probably his smartest move at this moment, is to say, you know, we went there to get rid of these elements within the Ukrainian military. We have accomplished that. You know, have a big banner on a submarine or something saying mission accomplished and come home. Let's see. Give us a ranch story. Something that has happened on the ranch that I haven't talked about. Oh, well, the other morning I was leaving here, and I'm walking along, and I'm walking past the garden area that we have set up for that community garden video that I promise is in production. And I round the little greenhouse that we built, and there's a deer standing there, like feet away from me. This deer is just chilling, hanging out. And it wasn't startled. It just looked at me, and I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to pet it, you know. And I reach out, and it lets me. And I'm sitting here rubbing the side of this deer's face like you would a horse. And I'm just thinking, this is amazing. You know, it's early in the morning and like still misty out. And I felt like a Disney princess and everything. And then this other deer came out of the tree line and spooked the one that was beside me, and it kind of reared up and, I don't know, leaned into me, hit me, punched me, like both feet right in the chest, and ran off. I fell to the ground, wheezing, and yeah, I got beat up by Bambi, is what happened. With affirmative action gone, what do you think the best option is? Cash reparations payments. The last TV show you watched is coming to save you from a kidnapper. How safe are you? I'll take Lucifer and the Detective. I think I'll be all right. Who would win in a dance fight, Taylor Swift or Michael Jackson? Okay, I mean, I like Taylor Swift and all, but get real. She doesn't stand a chance. Do you have a plan to train a successor for your channel? No, not really. That wasn't something I'd given a lot of thought to. Maybe I should, I guess. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. Why don't you ever correct other creators? A couple of big creators did a transphobia recently, and I kind of expected you to call them out on what seems like a rightward shift. Okay. So when I say the way I look at this, this is the way I look at this. I believe in a diversity of tactics. Generally speaking, I think that's between them and their audience. I think their audience will correct them. And either they take the correction or they don't. You know, I like to assume that mistakes like that are mistakes. And that they'll take the correction from their audience. Or maybe it is just an opinion they have that they haven't gotten through yet and they're still working on it or whatever. But it is this actual last part is the reason I don't call anybody out like that. The rightward shift, you know, there have been channels that make that pivot to the right. It's to get in with the right-wing ecosystem, you need outrage. That's the currency. That's the cover to get in. You need to generate outrage. I like to assume that it's something that, you know, they don't have it all figured out yet, or it's a mistake. They'll take the correction from their audience. But if it is not, and it is something that's calculated, I don't want to pay their entry fee. I don't want to give them the outrage that they need for credibility on the right. The worst part about this is that in the time period that these messages come from, this could be like one of 6 people. I don't know who you're talking about. But generally speaking, if you have a left-leaning audience and you do a transphobia, your audience will probably correct you. Why do you mispronounce Wagner now? In your first videos, you pronounced it correctly. Because I'm being mean and petty. Somebody told me that they really didn't like it when they heard Americans mispronounce the name. I hate your power coupon analogy. It simply reinforces the idea that money makes people less accountable and more capable. Do you believe that's not true? I don't think you hate the analogy. I think you hate capitalism. I mean, realistically, it does. Currency is a power coupon. It provides you power to get goods and services. It does, in many ways, make you less accountable, as we see with wealthy people when they go to court. I don't think that it's the analogy you have a problem with. I think you don't like it because it's accurate, which, I mean, I can understand that. I homeschool my kids. You've said things in the past that makes me think you're not judgmental of that. Can you tell me why people think we should pay taxes for public schools, even though we homeschool? The easy answer here is like a fire department analogy. I've never had my house burned down. I don't use that service. But I still pay for it. I think a better analogy is to acknowledge that education, everybody's education, benefits everybody. Whether you realize it or not, every time you go to the store, every time you interact with another person who is educated in that school district, you are benefiting from public schools. I think that would be the best way to kind of acknowledge that even though your kids may not go there, you're still benefiting from it. Can you do one of those Q&A videos for guys for dating advice? Last time, all the questions were really addressing problems women had. Sure. Send in the questions. Question for Bo at Gmail. Let's see. That's not even a question. Your thumbnails suck. I can't believe you have the nerve to give YouTube advice. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not changing the way I do my thumbnails. Okay. Okay, so I guess this is the start of the questions about cluster munitions. Can they be used for demining? Yes. Yes, they can. Some of them can. So if you missed it over on the other channel, there's a lot of commentary going on about cluster munitions right now because the United States is providing some artillery shells that are, in fact, cluster munitions. Can they be used for demining? Yeah. So the way it works is there's a geographic area. I want to say it's somewhere between 6.5 and 7 acres that gets hit by one of these shells. The mines that are on the ground would absolutely be disrupted by those. Now, the flip side to that is you also still have dud clusters that hit the ground that are still, some of those are going to be unexploded. That would have to be cleaned up. It does speed the process when you're talking about minefields, though. Can cluster bombs be broken up and used individually from drones? If so, how? Okay, so the answer is yes. How? Yeah, we're not talking about that on YouTube. It's an almost certainty that Ukraine will use a lot of these and use the components individually. That is definitely going to happen. At the same time, if this is something that's being brought up to say they won't be used as cluster munitions, that's not really true. They will absolutely be used against trenches. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Okay. I was talking to a man who was in the Army and did stuff with artillery. He said there was no difference between using a cluster shell and pounding the area with a bunch of normal shells. Is that true? I mean, yes, it is. It is in effect. It is in effect. The difference and the reason people object to the cluster munitions is because if you have a 155 unexploded, it's pretty visible. The individual clusters are not. They're harder to see, so they're more of a danger after the fact. But yeah, I mean, the statement is true. The cluster munitions are not somehow more horrible than normal artillery. The issue comes from the small pieces afterward. At least most of what people are worried about. I can't believe you support or are at least not opposing cluster bombs for Ukraine. In 5 years, when kids are getting blown up, enjoy your view from your cushy chair. Okay. You do realize that that's happening now. Right now. You don't have to wait 5 years. That's occurring right now, this minute. That's happening over there. And that's not going to stop until the war does. That's occurring right now. What a lot of people are saying, in effect, it's kind of similar to telling somebody who's holding their kid in a room that's on fire not to run down that hallway where there is no fire because there's some fumes in there that might give you cancer in 5 years. There's a war going on. All they want, the reason they're willing to use these types of munitions is because they want what you're worried about happening in 5 years. They want it to stop happening now. And the fortified positions, the trenches that these are likely to be used against, this is a good tool for getting through them. You're right. These things shouldn't exist, but they do. They do. And people are going to want to use them as long as they exist because they're effective. As far as, saying don't use those, I mean, unless you are willing to get out of your cushy chair now and rush across the field towards the trenches World War I style to the sound of a bugle marching in step towards slaughter, I mean, just keep the chair warm for me. I don't think you want to do that the same way they don't want to do that. I don't think it's good, but I am sitting in a cushy chair, and I'm not going to tell people on the other side of the world how to stop their cities from getting bombed. So, and that was actually the question that my team chose to end on. That was the last one. Wow, so much for ending on a light note, I guess. When you're talking about conflicts, please remember that to a whole lot of people, it's not something that's happening on a screen. It's not something where they can take the risk that may occur in 5 years and think about it in isolation from what's happening around them right now. They're at risk right now, today. They're being hit right now, today. And I mean, it is worth noting that as far as me being in my cushy chair, I can't, do a GoFundMe for air defense. I could totally do a GoFundMe to help clean it up afterward. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.